Hello, everyone. Welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. Man, we really don't have time for this bit, but I can't let this one go. I need to talk about this episode's important announcement. The new GLORIO DLC for Dragon Ball Sparking Zero.
Yes,
we finally made it.
Welcome, Dragon Ball fans, to the GLORIO Chat, your favorite fan cast where we talk about everybody's favorite new Dragon Ball character, GLORIO.
Oh, is that? See, I've been waiting for them to contact me. I assumed it was going to be a fighter pack with all of us being added into the game.
Sure.
Again, I haven't actually spoken with anyone yet. I need to speak with our legal team and whatnot. But
yes, for some reason, Akira Toriyama's not answering your calls.
Yeah. Well, anyway, yes. Keep an eye out for the new GLORIO DLC. You can fight as myself and the rest of the GLORIO crew, right? I was trying to think what kind of fighting game character I would be, and I think I would be like a hardcore zoner that's impossible for beginner players to beat, but after you figure it out, they're like bottom tier in tournaments. One of those kind of characters.
That character?
Yeah, something like that.
Didn't you used to play like Lambda or whatever anyway?
Yeah, basically the type of characters I play.
Well, we're just going by the types of characters we play. Then yes, I am a rushdown boxer, and Iro is a scumbag grappler. So
yeah,
bit over.
Yep.
Peter, I don't know if you're how much you're into fighting games, if at all, but I don't know if you have any thoughts on what kind of fighting game character you would be. But
I don't know, but like whatever bottom tier in like Smash Brothers or something.
Okay.
So just like me, then Little Mac.
Oof.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great. All right. Well, like I said, we don't really have time for too many jokes today because this is our first look podcast for the fall 2024 season. We've got a lot of shows to talk about, so we need to get into it. To introduce everybody, I'm Gel. I'm joined by Iro.
I'm still here. I'm not dead yet.
We're
not gonna have time this week for me to talk about Metaphor Refantasia.
We'll get into that maybe next time, but yes, at some point we will want to talk about that. And we are joined by G.
Iro, thank you so much for being considerate of our time, that I can have my bit instead. I'd like to apologize again. I know I've been doing a lot of apologizing on this podcast. But this time I really mean it. People who know me may know that when I played Pokemon Gold and Silver, Cyndaquil was my starter, which of course naturally evolved into Typhlosion.
Oh no.
I'd like to apologize to everybody who's been hurt. I was not aware of the allegations against Typhlosion. Typhlosion is one of my closest friends, and I really should have been. I should have paid more attention. I should have noticed the signs, but that's a failure on my part, and I'm going to strive to do better going forward.
Man, I wish this was a mid-season podcast where we had nothing to talk about and we could have leaned into some of these things.
Spend 30 minutes talking about Typhlosion.
We could have had jokes on that Pokemon thing.
I heard Typhlosion hangs out with Slackhoth.
Oh, that whole debacle, yeah.
Anyway. How could we have known that Typhlosion was also trying to strike a chord?
All right. Let's
you teach it round, and then you have your Pokemon that both use round, and then
I think we just need to stop this, cut this off now. But yes, G, hopefully, you don't also get canceled in the process here, but yeah.
Look, as long as the allegations against Superior never come to light, I should be good.
Yeah. All right.
It hasn't been on podcast a long time. I have been watching the Pokemon anime this whole time. maybe when Zig or Aquaze is on.
Oh, that's
you guys can have your
okay talk.
Yeah, I completely forgot because we haven't talked about that in so long.
Yeah, there's not that much to talk about.
All right. Well, we're also joined by Peter.
Yeah, sorry.
No.
Peter, we are happy to have you on.
Yes.
We are very happy to have you with us.
It's good to be back.
Yes, it's been a while. I know a lot of the GLORIO crew, other than us, I guess, have been busy over the past couple of months here, but it's good to have you on. So, all right, let's talk about the fall 2024 anime, and we'll just dive right into it and start with a big one and talk about Dragon Ball DAIMA.
Yeah. Dragon Ball.
I think everyone is a lot more positive on this than we were expecting. If you go back and watch our preview show,
Sure.
Having having lived through and survived all these super content,
Yes.
and getting then getting the news that they're all being turned back into kids, I think our expectations were somewhere deep in the ground for DAIMA.
Mhm.
But for me personally, and there's only, as of recording, there's only 2 episodes out. For me personally, I think there's hope, but I'm not there yet
Right.
on it.
I
But
agree.
What
Yeah.
do you guys? What do you guys think?
Iro, you want to go first?
Sure. I broadly agree. I'm getting a lot of GT energy off of the vibe, which for those of us
GT
above a
brackets.
certain age,
GT brackets complimentary?
complimentary.
Yes.
well, hopefully, right. The
Yeah.
thing that's funniest to me by a mile is that the first episode opens with a recap of the whole Majin Buu arc.
just ruthlessly buries the entire Super
Yes.
era
Yeah.
of Dragon
Just
Ball.
ignores everything of the past, like 6 years.
Do we
It's
just
so
have
funny.
to do we just have to accept that anything past the Buu saga will never be canon?
Yeah.
At this point,
I accepted that many years ago.
Yeah, honestly, yes. Like, look, I
Okay.
enjoy Dragon Ball Superhero. I enjoy Dragon Ball Super Broly, but like,
Mhm.
I enjoy them in the way of like, it's fun to watch my favorite action figures beat some ass. But like,
Right.
Mhm.
I cannot pretend like I am emotionally invested in Dragon Ball anymore.
Right. I don't give a shit about Ultra Instinct or Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan.
Yeah.
But
I don't even care that much for Orange Piccolo. I mean, it's nice.
Mhm.
Don't get me wrong, but
I didn't like Orange Piccolo at all, but
you didn't like Orange Piccolo?
I like the idea of finally giving Piccolo a power up, but
Yes.
it's the most half-assed.
The
We're not here to
actual-
talk about Super.
anyway, yes, yeah, yes, we're not here to. Let's talk about
We're completely ignored. I think that's really funny. I appreciate
Yes.
it as a super
Absolutely.
hater.
Yeah.
And that's really fun to me.
Yeah.
That it's
So yeah,
we're back to basics.
Yeah, like to kind of jump off from what Iro's saying, like Daima literally opens with like it talks about fucking Dabura, like the demon
Dabura.
guy that
Yes, that's like the
Babidi,
first thing they talk about.
mind controlled back,
Right.
At the start of the tournament. The same
Somewhere in,
tournament
like,
where like
1992 or something.
The same
Yeah.
tournament where Goten and Trunks put on a trench coat and fought as one fighter in the adults division.
like that one fight with Videl that I feel like maybe unlocks some like real bad tendencies in a certain like generation of Dragon Ball fan. But anyways, so we kind of open up with what's his name, Goma. He's like the new prince of hell of
Yeah.
like the demon realm.
Because Dabura was turned into candy and eaten and then sent to heaven.
Yes. Right, yes, sent to heaven because he would like hell too much.
Yep.
And yes, the demon realm is a distinct entity, a distinct zone from hell.
Legally distinct from hell. Yes.
God, right? Yes, yep. We'll get there in a
Yeah.
second.
Anyway, so yeah, it's like this like little demon guy, very Toriyama ass looking demon guy, is like basically like doing a 10-minute recap of the Buu saga, and
For
arrives
us just watching the archive video. Look,
yeah, like basically arrives at the conclusion. Well, what if this Goku guy ever comes to hell? Not hell, my bad. The demon realm. I can't have that. So my intelligent plan is to turn all of the Z fighters into children, which is very funny because
they can't use the Dragon Balls to kill them, right?
No,
so they have to like
Shenron won't do
find
that.
some way to limit their power because they wouldn't be
Yes.
able to kill them, right? Yes.
Yes,
A very contrived
which leads
reason to make them all kids again.
Which leads to the very funny interaction of like They wish for the wording of the wish that Goma makes to Shenron, because he goes to the Earth realm because the Demon Realm Dragon Balls are guarded by like common writers, basically.
Can't write to fight them, right? But
yeah. And goes to Earth instead, and basically wishes that anybody who assisted in the defeat of Majin Buu to be turned into a child. And I feel like this is going to be really funny, like, for Iro and I going forward, to, like, see which people became children. Because, like, for example, Master Roshi became a child. Can you tell me what contribution Master Roshi made to the defeat of Majin Buu?
Here's the thing where I go, hang on. Everybody on Earth gave their energy to the Spirit Bomb to help defeat Majin Buu. Android 8 got turned back into a little kid Frankenstein. Right, like...
Because, like, for example, Korin, the cat, the little the cat, he didn't turn into a child, but Master Roshi did. Yamcha, can you tell me what Yamcha did to help defeat Majin Buu?
Yamcha definitely did nothing. Yeah.
For me and Iro, the funniest thing that's going to happen is if we see Gohan and Gohan's not a child.
That thought occurred to me. That
really Gohan is MIA right now.
Gohan has not appeared in the first 2 episodes, and they even specifically said, "Where's Gohan right now?"
Yeah,
and it would be. Very
I'm just saying, it would be really funny if just the final burying of Gohan is Gohan did not contribute meaningfully to the defeat of Majin Buu,
even though he had that really hardcore moment where he walks up and says, "I'm going to kill you" or whatever. One of the few things that Gohan ever did that was cool. But anyway,
one of the few times Gohan was ever cool. Anyways, so like the overall tone of this show is a lot more comedic, right? It definitely feels much more akin to OG Dragon Ball, right? Like high adventure Dragon Ball. At least so far. And I think that's kind of where I think all of us who've watched this are kind of at collectively, right? Is like, yeah, the vibes are good, and the ED does the thing of, like, it's a montage of Kid Goku and his new, like, party going on adventures. They're fishing, they're camping, but, like, GT also kind of presented itself as that at the start, right? Like, oh, Goku's a kid again, and now Trunks, Pan, and Goku are going to go on, like, high-flying alien adventures. Yep. And then, like, Super Baby got introduced, and, like, we went downhill from there, right? So, like, will Daima actually commit to, like, little Goku adventures? I think that's kind of where things are left.
And to be clear, I mean, the first 2 episodes, absolutely nothing happens. It's all set up, right?
Yeah.
So, like, we really don't know. I mean, the only thing that happens is, I guess, Glorio shows up. But there's no. They basically, everything that we did describe for the plot gets set up, and then they figure out that they have to go to the Glorio. The Demon Realm with Glorio. Glorio comes to pick up Goku to bring him to the Demon Realm, and that's kind of all. That's all we get in the first 2 episodes. So there's really not a lot for us to judge yet, other than the vibes, right? And we can only kind of predict where we might be headed. So,
to be clear, the vibes are pretty good. Like, one of the funniest jokes in these first 2 episodes is Goma makes the wish to turn everybody into children, and then Shenron's like, "All right, I'm out," and Goma's like, "Wait, I thought the Earth Dragon granted 3 wishes," and Shenron's like, "That's for friends. First timers only get 1." It's just
God. The other, like, retcon / plot thing that comes up is actually the Namekins are demons. Right? Look,
we looped back around, right? Where,
they are aliens who originally came from the Demon Realm. Just like loop back around all the way to when Demon King Piccolo was indeed a demon.
Yes,
like,
but also an alien, apparently.
So now they're both technically right.
So funny,
So I mean, for me, my thing is, like, I appreciate the vibes and kind of capturing the original Dragon Ball feel, but I'm also not personally interested in that. Like, I like that. I like capturing that original, tone of Dragon Ball more than whatever was going on with Super. But also, like, I don't know if I would even want to watch that, even if that's the direction we go. So we'll see. But I think regardless, it was probably more of a positive experience than any of us were thinking going into it, and that's good. So,
yep.
All right.
Speaking of old things being new,
let's go talk about another old thing coming back here, and talk about Ranma 1/2. Am I the only one that watched it?
Ball. I watched the first episode.
Okay, you also watched the first episode. Okay,
I did not.
So, for context, we talked about. I think we also talked about this in the previous show. I never actually watched the original series or read the manga or anything.
I just absorbed some of it through.
Right. I mean, it's such a big, cultural anime thing that obviously you learn a lot about it just through osmosis.
I think I read like the first I thought I read a lot of Ranma 1/2. I was like, yeah, I read like the first 10 volumes, and it's like, brother, like Ranma 1/2 is like 50 fucking volumes or some shit. So it's never mind.
And my overall feeling is, and this is no disrespect to Rumiko Takahashi, because I know she invented or at least made popular a lot of these things, but it felt kind of outdated to me. Like it felt like
because it's just the manga. It's just an adaptation, right?
Yeah, they're making at least in the first episode, from what I could tell, like no changes. They're recreating the Ranma 1/2 story in picture perfect detail. It does look great. As far as like the technical quality and everything. I will say one thing, they kind of did the same thing with the Urusei Yatsura adaptation, where they put what I'm calling the city pop filter on everything.
I did notice that, yeah.
And it looks cool like some of the time, but it's kind of like they kind of overdo it. Like everything kind of has like the pastel color filter on it all the time, and it's very stylish looking. But I don't know. It just
it's an interesting choice, because like it's clearly meant to like feel nostalgic, but also anime from the 90s didn't look like that.
Right. And that kind of brings me to the other thing I want to mention is I made sure to watch this first. So that I could have a clear, unbiased opinion. And then I went back and watched the first episode of the original anime series.
Okay.
And yeah, something about an anime from back then, man. I'm just always gonna like
it's different, man.
I'm just gonna always like that more. And it's not to I again, the new one looks beautiful. I don't know what else they could have done to make it look better and fit 2024 standards, right? But something about like and it's like I would even say the new one looked like consistently better like throughout the episode, but there's one bit in the first episode where Ranma and Akane spar in the dojo where they decide to just crank up the animation in the original, and I'm like, yeah, no, this is better. You can't just people just don't do that, make anime like this anymore. It was very interesting, but I was like,
why is it that like the only like anime, or the only evidence we have that like you could make an anime look like it came from the 90s is that one sequence from season 2 of Pop Team Epic. They clearly have the technology.
It could still be done, right? Yeah, but no, it isn't. But that's just kind of a side note. I mean, honestly, the story itself, I mean, everybody at least knows the basic story about, Ranma and his dad get cursed and they transform if they get splashed with water or whatever, and comedy hijinks ensue. It just feel like even like more like I would watch either the new one or the old one if I was more interested in like the actual like content. But it was just like very like old fashioned kind of humor stuff that I was just not really feeling at this point. But
I'm surprised they got back like most of the old cast, which is
wow, really
a bit like kind of bizarre to me. It's like,
yeah, because like a lot of those people are probably quite old at this point, right? Like,
or like getting older.
Yeah,
let's say,
because the anime would have been like, early 90s.
Yeah.
It's not.
it was like
It
30
actually was,
years practically.
which is 30 plus years ago. But I for some reason I was thinking more 80s. But so they would be older for sure. Yeah. Well, anyway, I just, for my personal taste, I don't feel particularly compelled to keep watching more of it. Ira, I don't know if you have anything else you want to mention on it.
I'm also just not terribly interested, right? Like,
yeah, but shout out to once again to Rumiko Takahashi, who I never realized, like, we talk about her hits all the time. Like, I never realized she did like Urusei Yatsura, Ranma 1/2, and Inuyasha back to back
Right.
with only 3 months break in between each of them for 30 years.
Just
What a run! But
one of the top in the industry.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah. This is a watch it yourself and judge for yourself. I'm not gonna. I think it's good. It's just not for me. So okay. Let's move on to some newer things now.
Uh-huh.
So we're out of the 90s, and let's talk about Magilumiere. Which is one of, I feel like there's a lot of magical girl like spins on the magical girl thing happening this season. But if someone could refresh my memory on what this one's about, but because I did not watch this myself, but
I can take this job if you want.
Go for it.
Sure,
You're the one who watched the anime.
Oh no, that's me summarizing what the show is.
Yeah.
No, it's magical girls as corporations.
Right.
So you've got like this city that's, I think, Tokyo-esque, and there's like loads of different startup companies and big companies that are magical girls who are dispatched out on request to defeat some monsters that are attacking some part of the town. And it's imagining each of these companies, how they would like handle doing magical girls. And primarily Magilumiere is like a small startup. They've got 5 employees, or 4 prior to the protagonist joining, and it's new game, but it's a small startup instead of a black company, and it's magical girls instead of making video games.
So it's kind of more of like office comedy stuff than magical girl stuff, or
it's a bit of both. It sort of balances it a bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like they do seem to be really pushing that it's not a traditional company. It's not a black company. It's not like you're sleeping overnight. It's not like New Game saying, "Oh, we're doing crunch," but it's a slumber party, and like. They're doing like, hey, we're doing new stuff that the big corporate types are not doing, and which is like I watched the most recent episode just before the podcast recording, so episode 3, and there is very much a big corporate magical girls trying to shut down the little ones by sort of taking their jobs and stuff, and
market share.
Take down the mom and pop shops.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's fun. I like it.
Mm-hmm. Those are probably my feelings on like the manga, right? It's like it's okay, it's fun.
Yeah, like it does do some fun stuff with its premise, to be sure. You know, but it is, it is once you have kind of seen what it is offering, you could kind of pick up on what you're in store for.
Yeah, I'm getting the impression they're not like. It's interesting because the premise sounds kind of creative, but I'm imagining in practice, it sounds like it could also be pretty predictable, and perhaps they are not breaking the mold with with where they're taking it. But
right.
I mean, still, that can be a fun premise if done correctly, right? Like if you start getting into the, what would be the business challenges of running a magical girl business, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
One of the fun things they said in, I think the most recent episode was, as well as having your flat salary as magical girl, you also get commission depending on how well you do defeat the monsters, and you get a bonus if you do the finishing blow on the monster, for example. Which I suspect is going to come up later on, because there is financial incentive to do better than the other magical girl if you're going in as a team, or they've mentioned a few times, but it's not happened yet, teaming up with other companies to take down monsters as well, and I suspect that's going to happen further down the line.
Like somebody's not going to finish off the monster because they don't have an opportunity to get their finishing move off yet, and that's going to cause problems or something. Yeah, but yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm saying. It's like that kind of thing can be fun, but also like, not.
Yep.
It can be a bit predictable sometimes too, right? So yeah, but okay. Well, let's talk about Mecha Uday.
Yeah.
Mechanical arms. Ira, you want to explain this one? I started watching the episode and I forgot to come back around to it, which might kind of give you an idea of my opinion. But go ahead.
Right. So several years ago, a small studio that mostly did commercials and stuff ran a crowdfunding campaign to make this Mecha Uday thing as like a one-off pilot OVA, and now several years after that, it is getting a full series, and it's basically about people who have, in the cyberpunk future, there are people who have Mecha Uday, which are robotic limbs or like living robotic limbs and such that attach to them.
Like they're like they can talk and stuff, right?
Yeah,
like
they're like a symbiotic, like sapient kind of being that usually takes the form of some kind of like limb, and yes, like is connected to a human partner.
Yeah, and so of course the show. Stop me if you heard this one before. The show opens with our hapless high school main character hears a strange voice and goes to investigate and ends up the host of a strange Mecha Uday that doesn't remember who they are, and that means all of the other people who have Mecha Uday are coming to protect him or take the Mecha Uday away from him.
Because his might be secretly the strongest one or something.
Yeah.
But it is full of unrealized potential.
Yep.
Yeah, Mecha Uday is, as I think our first, as the first look post kind of gets into, is like it's very like Saturday morning or maybe even like afternoon Toonami block coded, like it is it's about like a young male protagonist kind of coming into his own after getting cool powers. It's the central conflict that Ira didn't mention is like. There are good Mecha Uday users who respect and love their Mecha Uday, and then there are bad Mecha Uday users who enslave and oppress their Mecha Uday, who see Mecha Uday as tools. So like, the OP literally does the thing of like, here's the hero's crew and here's the bad guy's crew. It's very like not just shonen, but like very like very that very specific brand of like young shonen, I guess is how I'd put it.
Right.
But it's really charming.
Yeah.
Like it's predictable as hell, but like the sensibilities of the show are actually like consistently quite funny. I know if you look around, a lot of people are using the trigger comparison, right? You're like, this is like kind of it kind of animates like a Trigger anime, and I think maybe less than it's necessarily inspired by Trigger, which I think it could be. I think it's what you're seeing is a studio that like clearly has an indie spirit, right? Clearly not the most experienced or most like well-funded studio, doing a lot with a little, which is in fact a fairly unique trait to Trigger as a studio.
Yeah, I can see why people would say that, but if you think about it, if you analyze that even a little bit, it's maybe not really accurate. But I can see why, like, first glance.
I was calling it like post Trigger. I think
post Trigger,
like, feels like a show made. Yeah, it's just like in a world where Trigger has been around for a while, right? And starting to like influence other people more.
Yeah, which I suppose is cool in its own way, right? That like it might like Amaishi, once upon a time, the like weird trailblazer, has now been around long enough that people are like now aping his style, which was once upon a time its own weird divergence.
Yeah. I think it's a lot of fun. Just like as was said, it's very predictable. It's following all the same beats that you think it will, but every time it's doing the thing you think, it also like puts a goofy little spin on it that makes you go, like.
I think maybe that is where like some of the Trigger comparison comes from. Is I think Mecha Ude has very strong sight gags. Like, it has a lot of really funny moments that is like. I mean, there's definitely a lot of intentional comedy, but there's also a lot of like it's just funny because they animated it in a funny way without like calling too much attention to it. Like the sort of counterpart to our protagonist, Aki Murasame, who's this like stoic, serious girl who's kind of the experienced Mecha Ude user who finds Hikaru, the protagonist, and she initially comes off as the very like kind of brusque, like hardcore, like no nonsense, I'm here to like beat ass kind of character, but like almost every establishing shot is her like eating something, like a pizza, or like 7 hamburgers or a bowl of ramen, like while standing on top of like a steel girder, looking
right.
Like when she quote unquote infiltrates the school Hikaru goes to, and like they do the classic setup of like Hikaru sits by the window, and Aki is assigned to like
the new transfer student.
She's a new transfer student, and she's assigned to a vacancy that's pretty far away, like on the other end of the classroom. And she just picks up the table and drags it to the window. She is like. Honestly, a lot of the best jokes involve her. Like she's a very funny, like comically serious character, and it's just like there are those types of like sensibilities, right? And the soundtrack is composed by maybe that's also why there's the Trigger comparison. Soundtrack by your friend and mine, Hiroyuki Sawano. And they have some good bits where, like, there's like a heroic theme that's like kind of the Arma theme. That's the name of Hikaru's Mecha Ude. And like Arma's thing is that like he can't be more than like 15 feet away from Hikaru or else like his life force fades away. And so they do the joke of like every time Hikaru gets close to Arma, like his theme starts playing and then Hikaru backs away and the volume goes down. So Hikaru moves like back and forth, and the theme song's volume goes up and down. Like there's It's like those little like touches that this show almost like kind of didn't quote unquote have to do, but it does, and it gives it its own unique flair.
Right. It's just I started watching it and I got about halfway through, and I didn't intentionally stop. I had to like get up and do something or something. I don't remember, but and I just forgot to get back to it because it was like I was like it was fine, but I was like not like blown away by it or anything. But,
it's
so but yeah, I mean I liked and I liked the I feel like I'm saying vibes a lot in this episode, but I like the vibes they were going for. I think maybe they did not have the resources to create something to the it seemed like they were doing like we said, the best they could with what they had to work with, but it was, it's wasn't necessarily the best looking show, from what I saw, but yeah,
It gives me a lot of Bubuki Baranki vibes.
Yeah, kind of similar. Yeah, I think to your point, Jill. Like, I think if this show looked the way it did and didn't have like this kind of flair to it, this sense of humor, I don't think Ira and I probably would have stuck with it, because then it's just a like kind of okay looking action show.
Yeah,
right.
Because we were kind of treating it almost more as an action comedy. Like,
right.
I think that is probably what is keeping us invested.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But what if we could have both?
Well, ask what Hiroyuki Imaishi is up to these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what is he up to these days?
Get the Imaishi Nakashima.
They're still working on Penny and Stocking too.
God, that is what they're working on. Penny and Stocking vindicated by history.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Most recently seen in the Zenless on Zero thing, but anyway, can't get into that. All right. So you guys are going to keep watching it, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We'll touch base on that throughout the season. Okay. Well, let's talk about Junji Ito's Uzumaki.
Our first and final impressions for Uzumaki.
Okay, because it's only a couple episodes, right? Yeah.
It's done. It's 4 episodes.
Yeah.
It's
I found it very funny. I was watching the Yankees game last night and saw commercials for this, which was very weird. But
I mean, they're pushing it. They're definitely pushing it hard.
I mean, it's on Adult Swim, right? So like, it's this is more mainstream than what we normally talk about on here. So
look, man, on my first look post, I included the time it airs on TV.
Yeah, that's wild. But what did you all
in the past tense?
What did you all think of Uzumaki?
Well,
Peter,
the funny thing is,
you've only watched the first episode, right?
I've only seen the first episode, so I can give my first look, and then you can give your last look.
I think that's fair. Yeah, go for it.
Okay, first look from episode 1. It's a cool art style. Like I'm vaguely familiar with Uzumaki. I've not read the manga or anything, but I am sort of aware of Junji Ito's style, and this whole was made for me and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm not super familiar with Uzumaki as a whole, apart from there's spirals everywhere, and that's episode 1. There's spirals everywhere, and it feels like a series of vignettes of there's spirals in this town rather than any really cohesive thing. But I guess it's episode 1. It's setting up for something, maybe.
Yeah,
I would sure love it if it was a series of vignettes.
I think so. To speak to the source material just briefly, yes, Uzumaki is almost kind of an anthology series about like strange happenings in a single town. The thing I've often joked about Junji Ito is like Junji Ito as a horror writer. I mean, his scariest story is like, what if X was really scary? Like, what if fish had legs? What if spirals were really fucked up, man? What if there was like a hole in a rock you could go into? It's very like
Look. It's hard to be both a legendary artist and a legendary writer at the same time.
And I think much of Junji Ito's strength comes from he takes these very, very basic horror concepts and extrapolates them to their most upsetting conclusions. Uzumaki, Gyo, Amidara Fault, like these are all like deeply upsetting manga to read or to look at, maybe is more accurate.
Right.
But I would not say that Junji Ito is necessarily like plumbing the torrid depths of the human psyche.
Right.
And so to kind of bring this to Uzumaki, the anime, it's a shame we have so much to talk about this podcast because we're gonna have to kind of speed run our thoughts of these 4 episodes in a way that will probably not give them the time they deserve, but
it's fine. That's what the show did, so we can do it too.
Yeah, might as well just get into it. So the first episode, I wholeheartedly praise for simply accomplishing the feat of of adapting Junji Ito's work.
Yeah.
I think on a technical level, that first episode does a really good or a pretty damn good job of capturing Junji Ito's like very distinct art. You see like why this damn thing took like 7 years to make. But even with that first episode, I'm already beginning to feel concerns because like Peter, your vibe check is not wrong. Like that first episode is kind of disjointed. Like it's kind of jumping all over the place. It's kind of jumping from plot to plot. And that's not to say that like the original Uzumaki manga is not also some of that. But the anime's pacing is, I think, maybe actually its greatest Achilles heel. And you begin to feel that in episode 1, and that becomes very apparent in episodes 2 and 3. Much tea has been spilled about the notorious episode 2 of Uzumaki at this point. It has a different director, different staff. I think perhaps even a different studio attached to it.
Yeah, I believe it was fully outsourced.
And it shows. It's really bad looking. It's like, we're talking like, still frames transforming on screen, like characters sliding on the cell, just characters looking off model. It's really rough. It's bad. I mean, like, I'm sure people worked very hard on it, but just straight up, it looks bad. And in some ways, like, I don't even mean to be a contrarian here, but when I see people talking about the visual quality, and I'm over here saying that's not even the worst thing about episode 2.
Yeah.
Episode 2, Uzumaki is a 20-chapter manga.
Oh.
Episode 2 covers like 6 chapters.
I didn't realize it was that long, which is not long in the grand scheme of things, but for a 4-episode anime, that is a lot to cram in.
Yeah. This is why I already felt this even in episode 1. I was like, hold on, 4 episodes? I don't think that's enough. And I was right. Episode 2, like, is this... we might as well just talk about episode 2 and 3 together, because they both suffer from the same issue. 3 looks better, but episodes 2 and 3 in general suffer really heavily. Iro, you kind of mentioned, you had a really good analogy for this.
God, did I?
You were talking about like the full course meal.
Oh, right, because like
disjointed nature of.
Yeah, I went back and like I read some of the manga, and the thing about the manga is each chapter is, as was alluded to earlier, like here's one weird thing that's happening in this town. Like we're gonna follow like one situation of weird spiral shit happening that's creepy and scary and whatnot, and then the next chapter will be a different one, and like because they are split into chapters like that, it feels like time has passed. Maybe that was one. Remember that weird thing that happened like last month, 2 months ago. Here in the anime, everything's happening simultaneously, and we are not like doing chapter 2, chapter 3, chapter 4, chapter 5. Everything has been blended together into one smoothie, right? Like they took every course of Uzumaki and blended it together into a smoothie and said, "Drink it down." It's like, what? This is like putting this here and then this here and then this here. That doesn't make any sense, like pacing wise. And yet that is how the anime is set up.
Right.
So we landed in like several parts where I was just like, I don't really follow what's happening because the stuff relating to this part was 6 minutes ago, but we've changed focus to something else, and then we'll keep changing focus, and then they'll be like, "Hey, remember that thing from 10 minutes ago?" I'm like, "I guess," but it doesn't have any impact anymore.
Right. It like every individual moment loses its impact because these characters are literally forced to like literally like run to the next plot occurrence. Like, there's a situation, like there's an arc that happens, there are multiple chapters that happen at the school the primary characters go to. And because there's like 3 or 4 separate, distinct, like disturbing incidents at that school, they just decide, well, they all happen in the same place and we're short on time, so we could just make them all happen at the same time. Like the analogy I came up with is like, this is like if you watched like, this is like if like JoJo Part 3 was turned into a 12 episode anime. And so the Stardust Crusaders have to fight like Whole Horse, Darby the Gambler, and like I don't even fucking know, like
Pet Shop,
and Pet Shop at the same time in the same episode, right? Like it's not just that like each moment doesn't get enough time. It's also that each moment loses its impact because of how closely packed they are together. So yes, you can talk about how bad it looks. You could talk about the shoddy animation, but at the end of the day, like you can't fix the fact that this had 4 episodes. Like these could look amazing. They could all look as good as episode 1. It wouldn't make a difference because of just what is actually happening on screen as opposed to how well executed it is.
Yeah. Just
so
kind of a mess.
Yet another thing that needed more episodes. Basically, what we're
at least 1, if not 2. Like,
right.
And and then we watched the last episode, and the last episode, I believe, had the same episode director as the first episode, but not the same director. And so it broadly looks the part, actually. I'd say the first and last episodes are, I guess if you're in this situation, I guess it's a good thing that the first and last episodes are generally the strongest of the 4. But, it kind of just feels like, you finished the race. Like,
right.
It's like they're just getting a job done, and it's, well, we did Uzumaki, right? Like,
yeah. Well,
I mean, that seems disappointing, I guess, but I don't know. I mean, do you guys actually? Well, I don't know. Did you read the whole manga, or Iro, you said read pieces or something?
Yeah, I only read the first 30 to 40%.
I mean, did you enjoy the manga? Basically, is what
it's way better than the anime.
Okay, yeah. So, all right. Well, I like you said, we're done with it. It was only the 4 episodes, so that one's in the books, and it's disappointing, but I guess we can move on. So, all right, let's talk about Orb on the movements of the Earth.
Orb.
I was on the fence about putting this in our preview show because it is different. The premise is different, and I didn't end up putting in because I thought it maybe was going to be a bit boring, and I was kind of right. But the concept of Orb is we're in 1500s Poland, which that in itself is a pretty unique place to be for anything, anime or otherwise. We're in like a city or an urban area too, which is interesting. So we're not like out on a farm somewhere or something. We're like in a what would pass as the highest levels of civilization in the 1500s, and our main character is a young boy who we find out has qualified to attend a university, but this being the time and place that he lives, that means he has to go study theology, even though he thinks religion is just a bunch of myths and legends, and he really wants to study astronomy, right?
At the time, that would be a really bizarre like feeling to have, I suppose, like for a person.
Right. Yeah, that would not be common, but so anyway, he's like, all right, well, I'll go to university, and under the guise of I'm studying theology, but I'll have the opportunity to study other sciences and things, right? That's his plan, right? And through various circumstances, he gets mixed up with this guy who just barely dodged getting burned at the stake for being a heretic. and because of his scientific theories, and he because they publicly renounced him, they let him go without killing him, although they apparently tortured him and whatnot. And this guy is like, and I guess maybe as a result of that, he like can't see as well anymore, so he basically blackmails this kid to help him finish his research. And that's kind of where the first episode leaves off. I've only watched the first episode, but
Okay.
So that's kind of the setup. His research is he is studying heliocentrism, and his big thing is that, hey, maybe everything doesn't revolve around the Earth, right? Maybe we're revolving around the sun. And yeah, so that's all sounds fine. I think my problem was it's a very ham-fisted church bad, science good type of story where they don't, and I don't disagree with that, but the execution of it,
like at the time,
right? There's no engaging with why the church would feel threatened by this or anything like that, right? It's just all we know is, and perhaps that's the other reason I didn't like it, Kenjiro Suda, who plays the main villain. In fact, the very first scene that we see is Kenjiro Suda ripping off a man's fingernails trying to get him to talk, because he is an evil cleryman who he's got the voice that makes him sound he's dead inside and doesn't care about anything.
Do the voice, yep.
Yeah, I'm so evil. I'm dead inside. That voice. And there's a scene later on where they're burning somebody at the stake, and he's literally like yawning and being like, "This is taking too long," just so you know that he doesn't care about anything.
Of course.
The same character he plays whenever he plays a villain every single time, and I couldn't stand it. But my point was, that's the only reason why Kenjiro Suda will burn you at the stake if you're doing this kind of research, and that's all we know or care about there. And maybe later in later episodes they'll get more into it, but at least in the first episode, that's kind of how it's presented. And the thing that really kind of just turned me off by the end is that there's this final dramatic scene at the end of the first episode where this dude and the kid are like out in some field somewhere looking up at the stars, and he's like, the kid's like, "Well, if I'm gonna help you, you got to tell me what your research is." And he's like, and they basically try to make heliocentrism sound really cool and dangerous. Which I guess in context it at least is kind of dangerous, but like they've done nothing to establish this other than tell you that Kenjiro Suda will kill you if you talk about it. So it doesn't come off cool or dangerous at all, because he's like, "What if I told you that the sun didn't revolve around the Earth?" And the kid's like, gasp. And
this is
what if I told you that the Earth not only moves around the sun, but that the Earth also spins on its own axis? And the kid gasps again. And I'm like, "Oh, come on. Really? Like, this is not..."
Did they at least... Oh, never mind. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead, G.
You ever hear that saying that, like, actually the worst feeling in the world is someone says something you agree with, but they're the most annoying person.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I forget the common form of that
heartbreaking, like, person you hate just made a great point. Like,
right. Well, it's like the opposite.
Worst person in the world just made a great point or something.
Yeah. Except in this case, it's like. But anyways, it's like, look, I am no expert on 15th century Poland. That's certainly not the area I studied in school. But I think the thing, like, I won't get into it too much, but considering you're not going to watch more of this show, this is the only chance I'm going to get. But like, I think the thing that's like kind of a shame about this premise or this show is like, I think there's actually like, it's like, I think there's actually a lot you could have done with this that, like, in some regards, making it more historically accurate would have actually made it more interesting.
Yeah.
Because, like,
I was about to say,
the thing is, like, yes, the church opposed a lot of, like, scientific progress back in the day, but also, do you know who bankrolled most of, like, pre-modern scientific like experimentation.
Right, exactly.
The church, like the church was not this like. And hey, look, man, you're not going to find me sticking up for the church most of the time, but like the church was, and to be clear, this is largely usually the Catholic Church we are talking about.
Yeah.
It was not this monolithic block. Like there was infighting,
Right.
there was politics, right? Like you had different factions, like there were vested interests in like geocentrism, but also there were factions of the Catholic Church that was like there is a political coup to be made here if we can prove heliocentrism. Maybe because we do legitimately care about the pursuit of knowledge, but also because it means we can fuck over those other priests we don't like. Like
right.
Like there's interesting intrigue there.
And to be fair, this was only one episode, and there was only so much they were going to be able to do with that. But like I said, that last scene is what really killed it for me, because it felt like it was like they were expecting me to already be bought in to what's going on at this point, and I was not. So they may dive into more complexity as the show goes on. And also, I just want to mention, I mean, I think Artemis was more positive on this than I was, and she has better taste than all of us. So you can go look at her. you can go look at her first look at the glorioblog.com, and I'm sure at some point we'll have her on if she's still watching it to talk about it. But yeah, just from my perspective, I was not, if I'm projecting what I think is going to happen moving forward based off the first episode, I did not feel like they were ready to tackle any nuance here, and it was going to be more of Kenjiro Suda's the bad guy, we have to stay away from the bad guy type of thing, more than any like interesting exploration of the what could be more nuanced relationship between the church and science and all that. So anyway, I mean, it might be another thing where if it does sound really interesting to you, go check it out. I didn't think it was awful. Like it just, I didn't feel like it was accomplishing quite what it was trying to do in the first episode. So
right.
Well, it's not anime, but if you want something that takes place in the early 1500s Bavaria as a historical setting, and like really gets into some of the stuff of the time period and how normal people would have felt about it, Pentiment is really good.
Okay. Yeah, I've heard.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. I'm just laughing because like I don't think anybody listening to this podcast needs to know about Pentiment, but no, that is true. Correct. I would love to play that game someday.
I am sure there is a Venn diagram of people who listen to this podcast and people who would enjoy that game. So that's fine. But that did remind me too. I feel like some people have drawn comparisons with this to Vinland Saga, and no.
Straight up.
I think just maybe the look of it or something, maybe. And there is some like they're like in a city, like urban area, and there's like some like there's a certain level of human cruelty that perhaps maybe invoked some of my feelings from Vinland Saga. But other than that, no, I'm not. I don't think there's any like thematic or plot the connections I would make or anything. But yeah, I mean, it's taking place way later in history and everything. Like it's
yeah.
Okay, well, I guess speaking of lots of magical girl shows this season, which I think this is a magical girl show, right? Acro Trip.
Yeah. Technically.
Okay. It has like magical girl aesthetic to it for sure, right?
Yeah, there is a magical girl in it who is a central character.
Okay, but what is
really
this one
about her?
Yeah, what is the actual premise on this one?
I actually know nothing about those.
So, Acro Trip has a girl, Date Chizuko, show up to a town to live with a grandfather for like a week. Sees a local magical girl defeating this evil lord, demon lord, whatever, called Chrome, and becomes a fangirl of the magical girl, and ends up sort of being recruited by by Chrome to help him be a better villain against the magical girl.
Okay.
And so Data's got like the whole, I don't want to hurt this magical girl, but also she needs like a competent enemy to fight against,
because otherwise it's not cool enough.
Yeah, like the most recent episode, the Chrome declares on live TV that he's not gonna be evil anymore, and like the local news has like clips sent in by viewers of what the magical girl's up to, and she's just like picking up trash from the beach or whatever because she's got nothing to do, and that is miserable, and ends up like getting Chrome to like join back up again, and for reals now, actually like be the general or whatever to like give him pointers and stuff to do.
Wait, isn't this the premise of that DreamWorks movie?
Which one?
Megamind? Like, isn't that literally about how like the villain retires from super villainy, and then the hero like also like loses their purpose?
Well, in the we don't need to get into Megamind.
I'm sorry, this is just where my brain goes.
I was gonna say this premise reminds me of like, I feel like I've seen tokusatsu adjacent stuff sort of have a similar premise.
Yeah, there was a recent one where it was like the monster with the like they were trying to create the monsters to keep the like appearance of the Toku heroes up or something.
Just like, I think it's a sort of premise that makes sense with a genre that has monster of the week, like episodic energy to it, right? So like Magical Girls makes sense to me.
So there was a very similar show a couple of seasons ago, or at least a very similar top level premise. There was a show called Gushing Over Magical Girls, which was same premise, except the magical girl fangirl basically does BDSM to the local magical girls, and that's pretty much the plot. So, like, but whereas Acro Trip is sort of more under like a, I've heard some people say it's more of like a shoujo style series because like Chrome's like a pretty boy disaster twink or whatever.
Gotcha.
And that is like the girl or whatever, but she also has the magical girl stuff. So I don't know. She's probably bi. That works.
Yep, sure. I mean, it sounds like it could be funny though. I mean, it is
super goofy. Like,
okay, yeah, that's the tone. Yeah.
Like, because like a grandfather's like, so like episode 1, the Chrome ends up like was in, you know, when there's like someone's abandoned a puppy or a kitten or whatever in like a cardboard box.
Yeah.
And so Chrome was in one of those cardboard boxes outside grandfather's house, like pre-episode 1, and ended up moving into like a basement space, turned it into a secret lair, and so he's actually already living in underneath his house before she gets there, and
gotcha.
I feel like I understand the target audience perfectly now, but yes.
Yeah, it is. It's very silly. I'm kind of hoping that like Data becomes like super evil at the end, like more, and Chrome has to turn her down or something. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just hopeful of something else. But yeah, I'm enjoying it at the very least.
Yeah, it seemed like to me the natural progression is that she eventually becomes the villain herself or something, right? But
well, I mean, she's technically the villain
already there.
Like she's thinking up like Chrome's like, because he's incompetent, all of his like evil schemes are like cutting in line at the Starbucks or whatever,
right?
And the magical girl's like, "How dare you cut in line?" or whatever. Whereas that is like, you could like kidnap the magical girl's mascot character and hold this cat hostage, and he's like, that's pure evil. What are you talking about?
That's so mean. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a pretty good premise, I think. It just whether or not they can consistently execute on that, but it does sound pretty fun.
Yeah, it felt like they've only really just like it took them like 4 episodes to like really for Daddy to like commit to being the general for Chrome, whereas like up to that she's like, I don't want to do this, it's going to hurt the magical girl, but ends up being roped into it anyway. Whereas now it's like, right, I'm actually going to try now.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, there's a lot of these magical girl shows that are just like taking weird angles at it. But
has there been like a straight, like all the tropes played straight, just regular ass magical girl show lately that isn't Precure, right? Like
that isn't Precure? Yeah, I don't know.
I guess Precure just muscles everyone else out of the space.
I will say that the magical girl in Acro Trip is very much I can't believe it's not a Precure.
Okay.
call the lawyers on that one. Yeah. Okay. That sounds fun. Let's talk about a show I was not expecting to ever hear from again. This is Sword Art Online Alternative, important distinction. Gale Online 2. Kirito is not in this one in any shape or form. This is
sure isn't.
This is the one with the little pink girl with the pink gun.
Yep. I watched the first season of this several years ago because of the studio involved at the time, Studio 3 Hertz, which I think has been fully reabsorbed back into A1 at this point, which is sad in its own way. I liked the first season because this is like the spin-off where doesn't have any of the if you die in the game, you die in real life shit. It's just people are playing a video game. And it's, it was just PUBG, the anime, right?
Right.
Which
like there was almost an element.
Like this is like me watching Bofuri or something, where it's just like, okay, people are just playing a very complicated video game, right? But yeah.
I feel like at the time you were kind of talking about like the thing that like Gale Online could kind of get away with is that because it was not beholden to Kirito and his crew of orbiters, it was not as beholden to the same kind of tired isekai protagonist tropes.
It is just they are playing the game, they are doing weird stuff with shooting people. It's I watched the first 3 episodes of the new one. I don't know if I'll watch any more, but like it's literally just, hey, they're doing another battle royale event. We're gonna enter, right? Then they enter, and it's just they are in this battle royale. The ring is shrinking. All the teams are trying to kill them, and that's just what it is, right? We are taking cover. We're shooting people. We're coming up with schemes.
I mean, does she at least whip out like some new antics? Because I remember the one you always talked about in the first season is like corpses of players become static objects,
right? Whatever. So like they explicitly patched that.
They patched that out.
Right.
They can't have that exploit anymore.
Yeah. So yes, it's the idea is because she's super small and super fast, right? So they're like run around as a decoy.
Actually, I know this is a stupid thing to ask, but like,
go for it.
It's a gun game, right? It's called Gale Online, right? So it's a shooting game.
Yeah,
you can customize your character.
Yep.
Is there any reason why you would not just make the smallest possible character? Is there any reason why you would not just make Yoda with an AK-47?
I think like in universe, it's like it just gives you it like auto randomly assigns you a like character avatar.
Oh right, because wasn't that like a whole thing?
Oh, it's operating on Rust rules or whatever.
Yeah, wasn't that a whole thing in like when Kirito spawned in as a girl in one of them?
Oh sure, probably.
You just get a random body.
Whatever,
you don't have.
I don't give a shit.
I'm just saying.
My mind turns off.
I'm just saying to. I'm just saying to provide supporting evidence for your statement.
Right.
I believe that was a thing in the Sword Art Online games where it was like you get a random body. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right, and so just like. The plot of these episodes are basically run around so the whole team can reposition. Let's hide in this train car. The train car is not fully bulletproof, but it's mostly bulletproof. And we can use our lightsaber to make tiny holes so that we can shoot out of and just defend this location until the ring starts coming in and we gotta move. All right. Right.
Just
It's basically
good, clean,
that's it.
good, clean
right?
fun, right?
Yeah. It gets into like, because this is like the third battle royale, so there are other characters who have been in the previous ones who like want revenge. And so there's one character who's like a sniper, and she's like, I'm so pissed that I lost. I grinded forever, put all of my points into dexterity, and I unlocked custom ammo. I spent all my money on my super armor by attaching every tag to my bullets, the incendiary, high explosive, armor piercing, like sniper round or whatever. And she's just like, I spent all my money making copies of this super ammo to use in this event, and so anybody who gets shot, just gets like red mark and their HP goes down. And then anybody who gets shot by these, like, explodes. Right? And everyone's just like, what the hell is happening?
Right.
Yeah.
That's where you can add you can make the video game part of it actually fun.
This is written by, the light novels were written by the Kino's Journey guy.
Right.
Anime is being written by your friend of mine, Yosuke Kuroda of Birdie Wing.
Yeah. Well, I'm less interested when he's doing adaptations than
that's true.
His crazy original, because he does a lot of adaptations, and
we gotta let him off the pasture again, man. We gotta get him off his beds,
let go of the leash.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like fine, right? It's not amazing, but it's not mainline Sword Art Online shit, right? It's just like,
I mean, they're really just using the Sword Art Online name, right? Like, it has literally nothing to do with
it's just
the other series.
It's just the vibes of, hey, real Sword Art Online, you introduced this whole thing, and then it wasn't about that. None of that's going on. Let's do that though. That's way cooler than whatever the hell you're up to.
So it sounds like they're not doing anything different in season 2. It's just business
it doesn't seem
as usual.
like it. Just yep.
Okay. And are you on the fence on whether you're going to keep watching, or
I will probably not watch more. Maybe I will if I'm like really bored.
Yeah.
But I just was like, I watched season 1 for the first look. For the first look podcast, I will watch 3 episodes and then.
Yeah, I mean, you did watch the whole first season. I mean, you must have enjoyed it to some extent, right? Like, it's.
Yeah. I think it is most fun to me when it's getting to like the weird game mechanic stuff, right? Of, we're
finding exploits in a
because it's a video game,
right?
Which is the thing that I think most isekai that involve video games do not get into.
Right. I mean, that's like when I was talking about me watching Bofuri,
right? Because that's also all about like, we're finding a weird exploit.
Right.
Rules loophole.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Although they started to get a little overboard in that show after a while, but almost more played for comedy. Like, we know this is ridiculous, but whatever.
Right.
But
and like, there's a crucial difference here between like, because I shouldn't get into my whole anti-isekai spiel here. It's like, it is common in isekai for it to be like, wow, and you combine these two skills that seem useless, and now you're the strongest. And I think like that's a very common trope. I think, or like I feel like I've seen that a lot. But like the context is different. The like vibe is different when we are actually just playing a video game. We log off afterwards.
It's not like, again, going to the original Sword Art Online when Kirito just decides he can dual wield now and pulls out another sword, right? Like, it's a different when it's just a game, it's a different feeling for sure. Okay. Well, let's move on to talk about 365 Days to the Wedding. This is, to refresh everyone's memory, the latest work by what's his name, Tamiki Wakaki, the author best known as the creator of The World God Only Knows, and more recently 16-bit
right.
sensation.
Yes.
Right.
If I'm being extremely reductive, this feels like his Sellout series. Because
this is the Sellout series.
Because think about those two works that I mentioned. Both of them are very heavily steeped in knowledge of otaku culture and specifically visual novels, right?
Right.
There's none of that in this series. This is a pretty straight up romantic comedy.
He's been
the premise. What's
Sorry,
that?
go ahead. No, never mind.
Okay. So
say it with your chest, Hero. I heard you.
He's been nisekoid.
Okay, I'm not going to go that far.
Yeah.
But this is not necessarily Baby's first romantic comedy, and we'll get into it. I think it has perhaps exceeded my expectations in some ways, but the premise, this is one that we talked about in a preview show, but just to remind everybody, there's these two people. They work for this like tourism travel agency company, and the company wants to open a branch in Alaska, but nobody wants to go because it's Alaska. There's no volunteers, so they're going to start having mandatory transfers, starting with people who are not married because they don't have a family or anything, and which I feel like is probably illegal in some way, but neither here nor there. So these two people decide, we don't want to go to Alaska. Let's pretend that we're getting married so that we don't get shipped out. And they figure, we are two quiet people who never talk to anybody at work. Nobody pays us any attention. We'll just make the announcement to our boss. And nobody will remember or care after a couple weeks, and we can move on with our lives. And of course, that does not happen. They severely underestimate how much people are now going to pay attention to them now that they're getting married, as well as the complications that end up happening around them, some which are predictable and some I did not see coming. So, that's the premise. All the way up till it took all the way up to episode 3 to get any anime references.
Okay.
So this is like just a straight up, these are quote unquote normal people that are not like, hardcore otaku or anything like that. And yeah.
It's like what kind of shenanigans happen in this?
Okay, so so here's where we get into the actual execution of this, because the premise itself is very like, I don't know, it sounds like it could be any type of romantic comedy. It's mostly like in the first episode, we get the things that you would expect, which are everyone's like, the episode basically ends with their office throwing them like a surprise party, and people start asking, how did you meet? How did you get engaged? How did you pop the question? All that stuff. And how long is and they were not prepared for any of this. So they have to
if you're really getting married now, you should kiss in front of us.
That they haven't gone to that move yet, but and then they have, and the joke is that they have to either deflect the question or come up with answers on the spot, and isn't that funny, right? That's kind of what you would expect from that premise. Yes. And then it kind of goes on a bit of a roller coaster ride over the course of the first 3 episodes.
Okay.
Where I was trying to gauge, is this like, is this going to be like a Shinzo Abe approved, everybody should get married and have kids type of story? Or is it going to go the other direction and be like, getting married is dumb and pointless? Which I didn't necessarily think that's where they were going to go. Because it's also very obvious that these two are immediately into each other as soon as they start talking to each other, right? So they're going to end up together in some capacity. But just all sorts of things start happening. So like right away in episode 2, there's like, they get a mysterious phone call with somebody like changing their voice that's like, I know you're lying and I'm going to expose your secret. And then like, so far that has not been explained.
Okay.
So we have that hanging out there. The main guy's dad finds out, presumably maybe because of this leak somehow, and he shows up and they have to, deal with him. And I guess episode 3 itself, because there's a bunch of things that happen throughout all 3 episodes, but I think episode 3 itself is maybe a good microcosm to explain what I'm talking about, where like at the beginning of the episode, they are meeting with this guy's dad, and he starts giving the whole speech about how he comes from a small town out in rural Japan, and the town is slowly dying because no one's getting married or having kids, and all the young people are leaving for the cities and all that. And if implying that maybe you should be getting married and coming back to your hometown or something, right? And that's like the beginning of the episode, and then the other part of the episode, this guy has to. This is where things just get. There's weird things that happen, like that are not like normal, just office stuff. Like so he gets selected to be a tour guide for a like European princess from a fake European country, who has a reputation for being a man-eater of some sort.
Yeah. Is that the joke here? Is that she keeps coming on to him, and he's like, "Wow, European princess," but also I'm supposed to be getting married to this other person.
Not quite. So but it's like it's scandalous because she is actually a married woman herself, but she has this reputation for being a man-eater and always requesting male tour guides and things when she's traveling, and he gets selected for this. And yes, it is played up a little bit for the like poking holes in their facade of being engaged, and making there's some bits where the main girl's why am I jealous or whatever, that kind of thing. But it turns out I'm trying to make sure explain this, that the princess, she wants to keep a low profile and just be herself and not be the princess, and so he takes her to these very like common things like going to a batting cages or something like that, right? And at the end, she's like, let's go back to your apartment and everything. And then, the main girl shows up to break it up, but it's all a misunderstanding because
she just wanted to go back to play video games.
Yeah. It's more than that. So she explains that she no longer wants to be a princess, that she actually, even though she's married, she does have a lover that she wants to go spend her life with and live a normal life, and she's probably going to leave the royal family. And they reveal that her lover is a woman who and she has been choosing male tour guides that she doesn't make her girlfriend jealous. And which is like, okay,
I guess.
I think your heart's in the right place. Yay. I guess. Lesbians. And my point being, we've swung completely in the other direction now.
Right.
Whereas at the beginning of the episode, I'm like, we're going for the Shinzo Abe go back and have kids in your hometown thing, and now we're over to leave your husband for your girlfriend. So
sure.
It's been a roller coaster ride. I think what they're ultimately going for is like the marriage can make you happy if you're with the right person type of thing. But
right.
And I think that's what they're going to be building up to with the main couple. But anyway, I guess my point with all of that is to say that there's more going on here than I expected, than just how are we going to come up with a story of how we got engaged type of thing. There's probably going to be, other wackier, kind of crazier types of stories and hijinks that they're going to be getting into. And there's something to be said for good execution, because I do think they're doing a good job of it. Like the main couple, which is kind of the most important part, is they're just likable enough. They're kind of like borderline. Like the main guy is sort of, sad sack loser guy with no confidence, but he kind of. This is going to come up later when we talk about Dawn to Dawn, I think.
I was about to say, yeah.
All I ask is that you try. And he's trying.
Sure.
So even though he sometimes is perhaps lacking in confidence or whatever, he steps up when he needs to, right? And then the main girl is very like kind of stoic. I don't want to talk to anybody. She has, very, no disrespect to anyone, but let's say conventionally boring hobbies. She's very into maps and trains and stuff.
Sure.
But,
how dare you call that boring?
I'm sorry, Peter. I know. She also collects rocks. Okay.
All right. Whoa.
I'm just saying.
Scandalous.
But she's very passionate about it, and they have some personality to them that prevents them.
All the rock, train, and map fans are furiously writing emails.
I'm so sorry, Peter.
Direct all inquiries to Toei Animation and the Dragon Ball staff.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and I do like kind of where they're going with their relationship and everything. It's well executed, even if it's not super complicated as far as that part of it goes. But, yeah, I guess it's been so long since I've watched The World God Only Knows, that perhaps I forgot that sometimes this guy is actually kind of good at some of this stuff. Sometimes. So I think overall I'm enjoying it. It's been a much more interesting experience than I was expecting, especially coming hot off of 16-bit Sensation, which went south pretty fast. Which, you can go back, and that was not that long ago. That was maybe a year ago or something. You can go back and check out our thoughts on that. But I have been somewhat pleasantly surprised with it.
What?
Sounds like I should watch it, at least. In the name of rail fans everywhere.
Yes.
But also as someone who was a big fan of World God Only Knows.
Yes. I mean, hey, look. Kama was my profile pick for a couple years there, right?
That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh my god,
that was an era.
That was an era. More so that's what my hair looked like at the time. But anyway, I did enjoy that show, particularly the beginning of it. Anyways, but yeah, I can definitely see more of that here than what I was seeing in 16-bit Sensation. Let's put it that way.
What?
All right. Let's talk about Gundam Requiem for Vengeance.
Now it's my turn to go on for 20 minutes straight.
Yes.
Gundam, huh?
Oh boy, Gundam, baby! It's back. It's always it never left. Gundam is always here. It is with us in the water, in the air. We can never escape Gundam.
This is the Netflix show that was produced by Western Studio.
Yes, a mostly Western staff, a Western director, a Western writer, Western composer even. But yeah, so Gundam Requiem for Vengeance is I believe it is a 6-episode OVA, currently exclusive to Netflix. It is kind of parts of the, as always, sort of the eternal push by Sunrise or Bandai Namco to kind of get Gundam westward. Yes. And doing that, Requiem for Vengeance has decided to sort of return to an old but familiar well for the Gundam franchise, which is going for a kind of grittier, more grounded, quote-unquote, approach. Requiem for Vengeance is focused on nominally a group of pilots, boots on the ground, so to speak. The gimmick this time, the sort of the spice, the sort of the twist, one might say, that makes this show a little twisted. Is that Requiem for Vengeance follows the perspective of soldiers of the Principality of Zeon, the enemy aggressors of the original Gundam, and the eternal antagonist of the UC. We follow the story of Red Wolf Squadron, a squad of I can't even tell they're like elite ace pilots. I mean, their Zakus are customized. They got red shoulders. Point is, like, a squad of Zaku pilots deployed on Earth during the 1 Year War. I'm just going to say this at the start, just in case anybody listening to this is not familiar with the original 1979 Mobile Suit Gundam. The 1 Year War is a conflict fought between the Earth Federation and the Principality of Zeon. The Principality of Zeon is a space-born political entity, primarily condensed in the colonies, which are these large habitations in space. And tensions kind of grow between the Earth Federation and Zeon over perceived slights, perceived lack of some perceived, some valid tensions due to a lack of autonomy amongst the colonies, a lack of political representation, a feeling of economic exploitation. Zeon expresses these concerns by committing multiple Holocaust-tier war crimes, including turning a good portion of Australia into a smoking crater by dropping a colony on Australia. This colony, which they gassed prior to dropping said colony on Australia.
It's all very intentional word choices, but yes.
Yes. The opening line of Mobile Suit Gundam is that a third to half of the human population has been killed by the opening salvo of the 1 Year War. Just important things to keep in mind about Zeon as we discuss Requiem for Vengeance.
I feel like we've discussed this previously, not necessarily on tape, but definitely among ourselves. That largely because of how popular Char Aznable was as a character, like newer Gundam shows have trended towards a rehabilitation of Zeon, right?
Yes. One could say because of the narrative nuance and complexity of Zeon, thanks to the works of the genius himself, the unmatched Yoshiyuki Tomino. Zeon is, in fact, a legitimately complex political entity. One of the core themes of the original Mobile Suit Gundam is that wars are not fought by monolithic entities, but by a diverse collection of individuals of varying ideologies and moralities. This has been true to the core fundamental themes of Gundam since its inception. And so, to be clear, I am not one of those people who is like they made Gundam woke. I am not that person. That is not what I am complaining about. My primary issue with Requiem for Vengeance is its sort of uncritical approach towards its portrayal of Zeon. I am not against the idea of sympathetic Zeon viewpoints and perspectives. Ramba Rawl is a respected name in this house, of course. I would invite Norris Packard to dinner. Well, what's the morally worst thing Norris Packard did? No, not really. He just killed combatants. Honestly, pretty clean, all said and done.
I mean, he's not worse than Typhlosion.
No, most certainly not. At worst, he's a bit of an overprotective uncle. But anyways, I digress. Point is,
yeah. Go ahead,
Eero. Go ahead. Oh,
yeah.
Like the show literally opens with like what appears to be a neutral, like Red Cross analog medic saying, "I don't know about this war, but I can tell you those Zakus have saved lives." As this like optimistic, heroic music is playing as we look at these literal fascist war machines. And I could complain on and on about like my problems with like the rehabilitation of Zeon and like, again, because Tomino always intended for Zeon to sort of represent, I mean, these days people say the Nazis, but specifically Zeon was always meant to be a parable for Imperial Japan. Like if you're familiar with like Imperial Japan during World War II, much of Zeon actually feels much closer to that than the specific like brand of fascism that we associate with the Nazis. But I digress. The Axis.
Either way, it's not what you want your organization to be compared to.
We have like a lot of opinions about the show, like coming at from the vector of we are very familiar with the franchise and the like ebb and flow of how the franchise has progressed over years, and so it's frustrating to have like the big push into the West, the like Netflix Gundam, the easiest one to access, like for a lot of people, be like this really uncritical like show that's just uninterested in the like the nuance that has been behind the series since the beginning.
Right. I mean, it sounds like if this is, I think I know what you're saying, is just the first Gundam you ever watch, you're not going to have any of that context, right?
Right.
No, like the show literally does not explain the 1 year war. It does not explain why Zeon is invading Earth. Like, a literal jackboot general gives a speech about how they're going to liberate Earth from, the tyrannic rule of the Federation, and it's kind of just presented as is. There's no intended, like, subversion of the speech. There's nobody, like, commenting on the hypocrisy of a speech like this being made by a fascistic invading force.
Right. And, like, the problem is... Right. The problem is, like... in context of what Gundam is broadly, it would totally make it makes sense them to be speaking this way.
Yes.
Because this is like the type of propaganda that you would spout. The issue is if you don't have that context, it is very easy to take it just at pure face value. Right.
Right. They are going to fight the bad guys, is what you would think if you had no other context.
The Zeon forces in the first episode that we have watched, all 6 are out already because it's Netflix, but we've only watched the first episode. They are very much coded as freedom fighters, right? Which, again, from a certain perspective, I think that's a valid way to approach Zeon. Like, there are certainly people in Zeon who would see themselves as liberators and freedom fighters, but for the work itself to present them as such gives me moments for pause. And again, I could go on and on about this, but like, really, the actual real problem with the show is it's boring as hell. Like, I was ready to be like, oh, hell yeah, I can't wait to fucking beat this show with a stick for the next 6 months. I don't know, man. Like, I don't think anybody's gonna be talking about this show in like a month. Like, it's fucking nothing. Like, there's like absolutely no substance to it. Like the base premise, right? So this Zaku squad, this squad of soldiers are being stalked and attacked by a mysterious Federation mobile suit, aka the Gundam. And the idea of the Gundam as a monster, especially to its enemies, is not new. In fact, it's a take on the Gundam I actually really like. Again, the original Mobile Suit Gundam had Zeon soldiers calling the Gundam the White Devil. Like, this is not subtext. The Gundam is a monster to those unfortunate to fight it. So, to adopt the Zeon perspective of these hapless soldiers panicking and frantically trying to hurt it to no avail. Hey, there's stuff to work with there. But the problem is, like, our characters, our viewpoint characters, like, are barely more developed than, like, the victims of a slasher fic. Like, they have, like, their one line, their one given personality, and then they're killed. And there's really no tension. There's no emotional investment in the situation. I don't particularly like the protagonist. I definitely don't
know
like
anything about
the
protagonist, right? Like,
yeah, truly. So, like, as much as I want to, like, really complain about how blah blah blah, this is the worst Gundam since, I don't know, fucking narrative or some shit. It's like there's not even really enough there to really attack. It's a very bland show, and so, you know, really the only thing I really am, like, kind of contending with as time goes on and as people watch Requiem for Vengeance is Requiem for Vengeance reminds me how tiring it is to be a Gundam fan when the currently airing Gundam is bad. Because all the same glazers, bootlickers will come out on social media and be like, wow, Gundam's done it again, or wow, so good, or I love it, and I feel like I'm going crazy. Like, I remembered I had the same feeling back when Iron-Blooded Orphans was airing. Like, I was like, how, like, why are you people praising this? Like, this is abject dog shit. Like, and, you know, it's just that reminder that, oh, right, like, this is why I don't talk about Gundam on social media 90% of the time, because I would fist fight most of you for your opinions on Gundam. Most of you are stupid. You have bad opinions on Gundam. You're uncritical. You're not smart. You're not particularly cultured. I don't like most of you. And I don't like most of your opinions on Gundam.
Yeah, so...
G's diss track coming out next...
Right? It's... What, the Gundam cycle, right? Like,
yeah,
it's always bad unless proven otherwise. I guess.
Yes,
like, and so, like, this is nothing special. Right?
Of course, like this, we are just repeating the cycle, right? You know, grass grows, sun shine. You know, the sun shines, birds fly, and Gundam is bad again. Like,
well,
yeah.
Look, Witch from Mercury was not perfect. Let me be clear, but let me tell you, every Sunday that G-Witch was airing, that was an event. We were having a great time. People were dancing in the streets. Like, I should have known that cosmically, on a cosmic level, the universe had to correct itself after G-Witch.
Yeah. Well, I saw they announced they're going to be putting out a new major work, whatever that means, annually for 2025 to 2029.
I can't.
The headline.
Cross those bridges when we get to them.
I can't, like, like, what does that even mean? Like, does that mean there's like a Bill Divers every year? Like,
yeah, I don't know how different that would be from whatever else has been happening, but like, does this count as a major work? I don't know, but yeah, Gundam will continue.
Also, like, Requiem for Vengeance doesn't even look that good. Like, it's all CG, and like, it really feels like a fan, like Zig put it best, it feels like a fan film. You know, it's literally made in Unreal Engine 5.
The studio made fan films before.
Right, like this like Requiem for Vengeance literally feels like one of those, like, Nintendo hire this man, like, videos of, like, Mario running through a photorealistic field of grass.
Yeah. What did I say last time? It had Final Fantasy Spirits Within energy. I don't know, but
God.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm assuming you are going to finish it though, because you have.
Of course, I'm
episodes.
sick. I'm sick. Yes. I'm broken. I'm like. Let's be clear. Like, I do this to myself.
Yep. All right. We'll.
I'm surrounded by crazy people. I can't let them get the better of me. I have to prove I'm the sanest one of all. So I have to watch a show I don't like. To prove I'm the sanest.
Yep.
All right. Well, we'll touch base on that throughout the next couple of podcast episodes.
Yeah.
as you guys wrap that up. All right, let's talk about. I guess this is the big one. I guess Don to Don.
Thank God this came afterwards. We can talk about something positive.
Things left on
Yeah, I left the good stuff for the end of the episode here. So, Don to Don is probably the biggest new thing this season. I think as far as new shows, I think that's probably safe to say.
I've seen non-anime watchers talk about it, so yes.
That's how you can tell.
Yeah, I can tell when the white normies that I interact with occasionally. If you're somebody who's listening to the podcast, you're not one of them. I promise.
Man, we are coming after so many people on this episode.
But when they start talking about it, I'm like, okay, it's broken out. It's broken containment. Go ahead.
It has broken containment. Yes. Yeah, Don to Don, definitely the obligatory high profile, high budget shonen adaptation of the season.
Except this is one we like.
yeah. I'm for the most part. Just a quick summary. Don to Don is a supernatural battle manga about two people, Momo and Okarun, who get afflicted with various supernatural maladies that give them powers, and now they use those powers to, I don't know, fight ghosts and aliens. You know the drill. But I'm curious to hear your guys' thoughts on it, since you guys have read the manga.
I think we had talked about in the preview. G, you had already seen the first 3 episodes, right?
I have, yes.
As a preview release or something.
It's way more fixated on the aliens want to kidnap our women and impregnate them than I thought it would be.
Well, I mean that was a big part of the first episode. I don't know how much that comes up later, but yeah. So I guess I'll say from my perspective, I liked it. I would even say I liked it a lot. The two things that really carry it for me, one is it looks amazing. Both in the art direction and the technical execution, which sometimes you can be good at only one of those things, but in firing on all cylinders in terms of I think it looks amazing. I think Science Saru working on this was an inspired choice, which we might talk about more later, but there's that, and obviously the heart of this thing is the two main characters and their relationship, which I think is fantastic. And I think they're both good characters, and I think their relationship is fantastic. I love how I for lack of a better word, I'll say natural their relationship developed, like their chemistry is. Where I feel like in other anime they might say something dumb and hurtful, and then the other person goes away, and that's the whole episode of them not talking to each other or whatever. But they're very honest and open about their feelings and resolve things right away, which would more like how normal people talk, right?
Right.
And I think that makes it, and then the characters themselves, I think, are pretty endearing. I talked about, when I was talking about in 360 Days of the Wedding, how the main guy is sort of a sad sack loser type of character. And, that is, what's the kid's name? Okarun. He fits that type, but like I said, all I ask is that you try, right? Like he's still trying to do his best, right? And I can't get mad at him for that part of it. I think he's pretty likable, even though he's a type of character that I normally hate, right? But so those core things, I think they're doing a fantastic job, and that's kind of carrying it for me, because the rest of it, you can kind of see the foundation of a battle shonen show that I'm not really as interested in when they start getting into the power explanations and stuff like that. But yeah, that core of it is just really, really good to me. Yeah,
I think as you kind of say, Jel, the kind of moment to moment is You've definitely seen it before, but I think it's definitely like the character dynamics, especially between Momo and Okarun, that I think is very strong. Like,
yeah,
like Okarun is kind of like, you've seen this type of like self-deprecating, like low confidence, sad sack type of character before, and I think the thing that works about it is like Momo doesn't really, just take that on face value, right?
Right.
Like. Like she's not like she's not like no you're fine, but she's also not like insensitive to it. She's very much like, hey,
she'll apologize when she knows she crossed the line or whatever, right? Like it's
right, but at the same time she will not let him like stew in that, and also like.
Right.
Also, like, he is kind of a shitty little nerd sometimes, right? Like,
right,
like there are definitely times when Momo expresses emotional vulnerability, and then Okarun like says something stupid and insensitive. So it's like as you say, like they
fire
fight
back at each other a little, right? Like,
exactly, right. And
they feel
so,
more on like even ground.
Exactly, I think so. But Iro, I guess you also have like you also this anime was new to you, so
Yeah, I largely agree. I think they're fun. The cast is good. The grandma's hot.
Hot take here. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the grandma's hot. I kind of don't really like her though.
She's kind of a jerk.
She is kind of a jerk.
Yeah, I think
like there's a line between we love our problematic women here at the GLORIO chat, but I don't know. There's a fine line between just being an annoying jerk and but yeah, sorry.
Right. I think, as you say, like as it got further, like as the episodes progressed, like yes, the frame of the Shonen Jump battle, supernatural battle show is like coming more and more into focus, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, we've been through this so many times. Almost,
yeah.
Right? It's like,
when that
yeah.
Yeah, when they're like explaining how like barriers work and stuff, I'm like, all right, I don't really care, but
it's like I'm having a good time for now, but like I look back over the decades and go, it's only a matter of time, isn't it?
Right. I mean, like Jujutsu Kaisen was only like the anime
ago,
anyways, a few years ago, right? So.
Right, and so like that's sort of my fear with it. Like it just going down that same path, even if the cast is fun and they have a good dynamic. Like if it's just going to become the same as the rest of those, I'll be disappointed.
Right.
Based on what my understanding, currently people still like the manga, so it doesn't seem like that's happened yet.
Manga is still good for now.
Right. For now.
I think the thing I would say that is Dandadan's strength, ironically, at least based on like what my familiarity with the manga and how the anime is shaping up, is that Dandadan is like, how do I put this? Like, it feels like a story that kind of knows its lane and executes very well within it.
Right.
Like it's not the most ambitious work, but like it just does very, very good work within that boundary. Like, as I've probably mentioned before, like Dandadan is probably the nicest looking manga currently published in Jump, and it's like really, really good artwork in service of like simple but effective story beats, if that makes sense.
Right.
And I think in some regards that may be the key to preserving it. That element.
We have talked often on this podcast about like shows we would have liked if they just were normal about it, like basically stayed in their lane, like did what they were good at, and did not have like over ambition to try and be what they weren't. And so a show that does that is something I could appreciate, right?
For sure.
Yeah. Peter, did you say you had an opportunity to check this out, or?
Yeah, prior to radio show last night, I watched. I made some notes about the 2 episodes I'd seen. I watched the 3rd one today. Prior to watching the 3rd episode, my entire notes were "Stuff Happens," the animated series.
Yes, there is stuff that happens for sure. Yep.
And the 3rd episode, as you say, starts to ground it a bit because if I'm being completely honest, I didn't think much of the first 2 episodes. Like, it really was a lot of stuff happened. You didn't really like get explanations for stuff, and there's no like. You've got what's the name? Momo yelling stuff. You've got Ken Takakura yelling stuff. And then there's demons doing stuff, and then that's 2 episodes. And I hate all of them. I hate all the characters.
Oh wow!
apart from cool grandma, who's still kind of awful, but like at least kind of entertaining. But because like after watching episode 3, I had Cool Grandma versus Turbo Grandma is match for the century, booked for SummerSlam, etc.
It was a cool fight.
It didn't really do it for me, but it might start to improve. I don't know. Like episode 3 is like hinting at some sort of balance, because obviously like stuff's happened to these kids. They don't know what's going on. They're panicking. I get that. And now, but it's like, as an outside observer, I'm like, yeah, okay, and I don't know. That's how I'm feeling, and I appreciate that. It's
as in like you want some kind of like overarching meta plot, or you're looking for some sort of character arc to appear, or what?
Or I guess maybe
I'm trying to get a handle on what
some kind of like, I guess, message or theme or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, because there's not a lot of that going on. I would agree,
No,
but,
yeah.
Obviously, I get that the long term hope is that Okarun or Ken or whatever gets the curse removed and becomes normal again, or gets control over his curse, which is like, I guess where they're going. Maybe Turbo Grandma gets dealt with but still has the powers or something. Maybe I don't know what the plan is, but presumably
I'm guessing.
Sounds like you've read a shonen or two before in your life.
I'm guessing on the usual trajectory of these types of stories, he'll get some means of controlling it or whatever. But yeah, I think Peter, I kind of, because when I'm trying to get, when I was starting with my opening statement of like, these are the things I like, and then everything else underneath it, maybe not so much. It's kind of in a similar sentiment. Although I would disagree on the characters, because I do like the main characters, but that's subjective, right? So maybe a lot of it does come down to like, how much do you actually like the characters themselves? But because I think we're all kind of agreeing the actual like overall sort of plot to it is very sort of basic battle shonen stuff, right? Like there's not a lot of meat to that part of it, but it's
visually super cool though. Like, I'm not going to deny that.
Yeah. Science Saru was definitely, as of the like, as we are all now on the same page of these 3 episodes, I could definitely say, Science Saru was like a really slick choice for adapting this. Like, I really do think now I can say that like a Mappa or a UFO table or even a Bones might have been like a mismatch. Like, it really does feel like Science Saru was the studio to kind of adapt this.
They matched like the energy, right? Like,
the energy.
Which,
that's
like Bones. Like Bones is very technically skilled. UFO table also very technically skilled. Like, they do good work, but the sort of irreverence, I suppose, or like just goofy cuts and such.
Yeah, there's kind of both a tonal and a technical looseness to Don to Don.
It makes sense to me why you would do Science Saru.
Yeah. G, did you want to add your thoughts? I mean, we like I said, you've already seen the episodes.
I think you guys have mostly nailed it all, and I've said my piece. I have a first look post on the blog, and I did kind of speak to it in the previous podcast, but I am pretty excited to see kind of where Don to Don goes. I think, yes, as as it sort of is implied, episode 4 will probably be the like first quote unquote climax, right? Kind of the culmination of what these episodes have been building up to. So I'm certainly looking forward to that. Also because I haven't seen it yet.
How many episodes this will be?
That's a good question.
12 according to some websites.
Okay.
Sure. Does that make sense? Like where knowing that it's 12 episodes, is there like a spot where it makes sense for the anime to end?
I think so. The thing that Dan kind of does, I don't think like it was necessarily written with the intention of being adapted to anime, but Dan is very heavily arc structured.
Gotcha.
Like it's weird creature of the week very much.
Yep.
Like
right.
And there is like an overarching connection between them. Like, oh yeah, this monster was connected to this thing, but it's very much like, all right, what's like the weird freak we have to fight? Right. This episode. So I think it will be relatively well equipped to kind of end wherever it wishes.
Okay.
And for it to feel appropriate. Last thing I will say is I never mentioned it in the podcast because it just didn't seem appropriate, but months ago, episodes of Dan leaked. The full context is I never looked fully into it, but I think it was Dan, and there was like 3 or 4 other shows which like had multiple episodes like leaked somehow. Like
Wasn't
somehow
this Netflix related.
Perhaps it was Netflix related. Yeah. And so Dan was one of them. I did not watch it at the time because it was like rough cuts. It was like presentation cuts, so it was like 240p, with like a big watermark over it. But I do remember at the time there was a somewhat somewhat viral tweet saying that the Dan OP was ass, and I don't know what the fuck that person was talking about. Like Dan's OP is like one of the best of the year.
Yeah, that's
I don't know what that dude was on.
Unless they just did not have the fully done version yet or something. I don't know. But
I don't know, man. But yes, really good OP.
The last thing I'll say, and I don't want. I hate that I'm sidetracking us here, but one of the things I was thinking while I was watching too is what if Science Saru had done Chainsaw Man?
Probably would have been better. I mean.
I don't know.
After I was thinking that's one of the things I was thinking when I was watching this. But
there's a connection because the mangaka for Dan was an assistant for Fujimoto.
Was an assistant for Fujimoto, yes. And I don't mean to be. Look, Ira and I saw Look Back. A few weeks ago. Don't have time to get into it now, but really excellent movie. Had me thinking deep feelings about like the act of creation and what it means to create for others. And I really wish everyone could go see it. Too bad it's not in theaters anymore. But yes, Look Back, amazing film, made me cry, 10 out of 10. I say that all because you can really tell it's really obvious when Yukinobu Tatsu, the author of Dan, was no longer an assistant on Chainsaw Man.
Okay.
The art quality sees a precipitous dip.
Yeah. I just feel like I was watching this and I feel like they would have maybe matched the energy needed for Chainsaw Man better. But
in hindsight, there's a lot of counterfactuals you could say about, there's a lot of problems that the Chainsaw Man anime ran into. And
yeah, you could argue Mappa could have done a better job with the Chainsaw Man.
They probably could have. The stories about Mappa's workplace abuses and like the ways in which that affected Chainsaw Man's production. Like there are multiple factors that I think affected it, but
yeah. So
I do think in this like idyllic world where we could do our like fantasy booking.
Yes.
Yeah, I would much rather watch a Science Saru Chainsaw Man than the Mappa Chainsaw Man that we live with.
And I would not
for another day, perhaps.
Yes, and I would not have thought that prior to watching Dan. So, in hindsight, but anyway, let's move on. And we're almost at the end of the
my God,
end of the road here. Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4
It's back.
It's good,
but not in any English-speaking country.
No. Crunchyroll not deigning to license Thunderbolt Fantasy now that they're the only game in town.
Licensing the other 3 seasons
and the movies,
have simply decided Thunderbolt Fantasy is now beneath them.
I want to know why. There has to be something. There has to be some reason why they didn't do it, and I have a feeling it's not as simple as we just didn't want to pay for it or something. I don't know, but it's weird that they would not do the season 4.
Very strange.
It's because it's not like they don't license like super unpopular things or whatever. Like it's.
Oh no, there are many shows on Crunchyroll that are probably much less popular than Thunderbolt Fantasy.
So like I don't think it's that. There must be something, and I'm very curious. But point is, there is nowhere legally you can watch this in English right now, streaming wise, which is wild to me.
No, so Iro and I have to fly to Japan every Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't watched it yet because I haven't been able to get to Japan. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I know. Well, we have some tapes from the recording of the show as it broadcasted. We can let you know about later.
Yeah.
But yes, to get into it, because this podcast is going long. Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4, the culmination of all the plot lines. Kasei Mako and the Divine Swarm are invading Hell to get demon powers. Demon Lord Azabelfer and Rofuyo and K-Guy, after the events of Season 3, are also in Hell to awaken Rofuyo's demonic bloodline. Shofu Khan is feeling a little listless and unsure of himself. He feels like every time he goes on an adventure, he loses more friends. Tanhi and Ken San-un, the what are they? The Holy Sword Guardians.
Seal Guardians.
The Seal Guardians are gearing up for war to against the Demon Realm, against Kasei Mako, and so a lot is going on. But you know what? It's still Thunderbolt Fantasy.
Oh yeah,
it's still perfect fiction.
It's great to see Thunderbolt Fantasy again. I love the dumb puppets. I think puppets are a lot of fun, as always, because they are inherently these wacky little wooden dolls. Anything they do becomes funny.
Yes.
No matter how violent, no matter how silly, or just etc. Like,
pure entertainment.
You want to see this puppet beat another puppet with its bare hands, as blood sprays out, and it is just so funny to me. It's I don't want to spoil all of the great moments from the first 3 episodes. There's a moment in episode 3 that we watched prior to recording that is maybe one of the see, you hear Hero, right? It's one of the greatest things ever committed to the art of puppetry in human history. This is truly what they make this puppet do in episode 3. We have peaked as a species. We have peaked as creators. To go back to Tatsuki Fujimoto's Look Back. What happens to episode 3? This is why we make art. It's so good. But things we can't talk about is there are moments in Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4 that are... So, I'm very proud of my description of Thunderbolt Fantasy back when I watched it for the first time, calling it Jim Henson's Dynasty Warriors.
That is very good, yes.
There is a moment in Season 4 that is maybe the most Muppet-coded Thunderbolt Fantasy has ever been.
Yes.
They have to fight demons because they're in hell, and a lot of these demons are bony reptilian creatures. And so they are literally, because they cannot articulate the way humans can, they move like Muppets. Their limbs wave back and forth, and when they open their mouth, it flaps open like Kermit. It's so good.
It is fun to see that.
And now imagine if Kermit knew Hyper Beam, it could shoot a laser out of its mouth. It's amazing.
It's great to see, because it's a sort of different style of puppetry than they normally use. And so, as a person who grew up in the way I did, I am intimately familiar with the Muppets. and just so seeing them move in that certain way just activates that's a Muppet. Like,
right, that's how a Muppet moves, right?
Yeah. And so
I'm going to
it's
say
so
this
funny.
now because we're going long, but Eero, I'm going to need you to go into that tangent later. Maybe in a future podcast when we're not running as long about what do you mean by the Muppets are integral to the way you were raised.
Yeah.
But yes, Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4, it's great. In some ways, there's not that much to say about it. Like, the only kind of real concern I think Ira and I have at the moment is they're tackling a lot of plot points right now. Like,
oh yeah,
Shofu Khan isn't even on screen in episode 2. Like, there's like you have Rofuyo in Hell, you have the Divine Swarm's last 2 generals, who are both like really, really dumb, but for completely different reasons, are sent into Hell. You have like, the Tanhi subplot. You have like, there's like
infiltrating the Divine Swarm.
Swarm, right. So there's like 5 or 6 different plot lines, all kind of running concurrently. And my only fear is like, I don't know if you can wrap these all up neatly in like a 12-episode season, you know? So,
but I guess I sort of felt that way about season 3 also. Like,
true.
The start of season 3 like had so many moving parts happening, and it took a while for them to line up. But once they did, like, it was great. I had a good time.
Yeah.
So,
I will say we are only 3 episodes in, and we have already gotten 2 poems. So
nice.
Thunderbolt Fantasy Season 4 is kicking into high gear.
Yep.
They're going hard, yeah. All right. Okay, well, clearly now that first looks are pretty much done, I need to continue catching up. I'm like halfway through season 3. I'm getting there.
Buddy, you got to get on board.
I'm getting there. I will get there. I'll definitely get there. So, yeah. All right. Well, crazy that we have 2 of the greatest anime or TV series of our generation in one season, but I do want to mention Bananya Around the World. Bananya's back for season 3, and in this one, there's a tiny Bananya from space that comes down that teleports with Bananya to different themed worlds. And they go in the episodes that have aired. They have gone to Summer Beach World where they met a hot surfer Bananya.
Okay.
They went to Wild West World where they met a hot cowboy Bananya.
Mm-hmm.
Naturally.
And they have gone to Haunted House World just in time for Halloween, where they met a bunch of
Was there a hot vampire Bananya there?
No, not this time.
Oh, really?
But they did wake up in a coffin when they teleported there, and and they give candy to all the movie monster Bananyas, and truly peak cinema as the kids say. But yeah, Bananya's back. You can binge the entire thing in 12 minutes, so go check that out. But all right, I think we're done here. It speaks for itself. Yes, I think we're done here. Let's
free us, Gale.
Yeah, let's do our housekeeping. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com, where you can read our first looks about these shows. And actually, we didn't write first looks for all of these, but there are other shows that we didn't talk about that also have first looks. Go check that out. As you can follow us on Blue Sky at glorioblog. Please leave Twitter if you can. But you can check us out there. Also, please go check out Peter's anime music radio show, which airs every Saturday. Peter, if you want to share where they can find that.
If you head on over to nekadesu.radio, that's the website, nekadesu.radio. It'll tell you all about it. But it's on the Cat on 107.9 FM on DAB Digital Radio around South Cheshire on Saturdays at 9 p.m.
There you go. Go check that out. And as far as the podcast, you can follow us on Apple or subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and of course YouTube, where you can like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell, all those good things. Tell your friends, tell your enemies. We'll catch everybody next time.